The one thing about, the public domain is, when and where certain IPs are going to enter it. Now, depending on where you live around the world, the release of IPs into your version of the public domain differs. For example, in Europe, Popeye technically is in public domain right now, at least the first iteration of Popeye. This is why, as of late, you've been seeing a lot of, I guess you could say, trailers, well, not a lot of trailers, but a few trailers of Popeye the Sailor Man, horror-themed, if not horror-inspired, if not horror-based movies being shown. The only catch is that none of those movies that have trailers can be released until next year. And the reason for that is due to the fact that here in the States, that's when Popeye, the first iteration of Popeye that is, goes into public domain. It's kind of the same thing with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. In the year prior to both the Steamboat Willie versions going into public domain, people were out, behind the scenes in 2023, if not, 2022, were working on horror films and even horror games and parodies of all kinds based on the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey and Minnie, or loosely adapted and inspired by them. And then even before that, you had the first alliteration works of Winnie the Pooh and the first appearance of Tigger going into public domain as well, back-to-back years. And the first thing, of course, a lot of people did with them is turn them into horror movies, or at least, tried to turn them into horror films. I mean, now with Mickey and Minnie, with Mickey Mouse, I should say, they're planning to do more Mickey Mouse films, not just, a sequel to the Mousetrap film, from what I'm understanding, which now will include Minnie Mouse, but also you got the Steamboat Willie, movie coming, and so on. You got a variety of horror-themed Mickey Mouse Steamboat Willie films and projects still on the verge of happening real soon. And the same with Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey basically gave birth to what is now known as the Poohverse, but basically the dark cinematic universe of a lot of childhood, fairy tales and story, characters going the horror route. Cinderella, Alice, I think, is going this route, Peter Pan, Pinocchio, you name it. They're all going this route, and it's all leading to I guess you could say, welcome to the Poohverse, or Poohverse assemble movie in the next year or so. I mean, yeah, the low budget, but still you see what happens when, these established IPs go into the public domain, even though it's the first iteration and first initial appearance and debuts of these characters from basically almost a century ago as we speak. And Popeye now is going to be joining them. And basically, from what we're getting from the two movies that are initially in the works right now, which is Shimmy Me Timbers and Popeye the Slayer Man, they're basically going to take Popeye and turn him from an iconic hero to a bloodthirsty, killer. And I don't know how that makes me feel. I mean, it sounds like one of the movies, I don't know, which one it is, has an article based on, him being the Slayer Man. I think it is the Slayer Man one. And the article shows a woman that has a hairstyle, a picture of a woman, I think, that he killed, that has a hairstyle similar to Olive, the original Olive, if you know what I mean. So it's like, it makes you wonder if they're going to portray this version of Popeye, as someone that even, just, I guess you could say, had enough of Olive and just flipped his lid on her and took her out. We don't know. But again, when you look at, an IP like Popeye going this route, it's not surprising. It's not surprising. And that's always been the question people have had. It's like, why go this route? why take established, beloved childhood IPs that people have grown up with or grown up on for the past, for the past century, I should say? Why take them and turn them into these horrific, bloodthirsty figures? Well, as I've said before when I've talked about this, I think it's mainly due to the fact that people that grew up on them as kids, like in the 80s, 90s, maybe even late 70s, maybe 2000s, if you will, I think what's going on is they're basically looking at this as an opportunity to do the one thing they've always questioned about. And that question is, what if? What if Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse were horror characters instead of the beloved squeaky clean characters of Disney? What if Winnie the Pooh, instead of being Winnie the Pooh, and all that of Disney, he was Winnie the Pooh of, I'm gonna cut your freaking heart out and eat it, stuff like that. Or now with Popeye, it's like, what if Popeye was instead being the I'm stuck to the spinach, I eat my spinach. What if Popeye was more like, I'm going to eat my spinach, I'm going to bash your brains in. What if he was like that? That's what this is about. It's basically answering the question that anybody had growing up. And I don't know why they would have this question asked of what if? What if they were this way? What if they were that way? I'm surprised, but I'm not going to put it past them. I'm surprised they haven't done that to Felix the Cat. Or Flip the Frog, the original Flip the Frog, if you will. Or the original, UB Iwerks versions of Oswald the Rabbit. I'm surprised they haven't done any of that yet. Now, I'm sure it's maybe because a lot of those classic cartoons have gone into, not public domain, but gone under the roof, have been given protection by, let's say, Universal, Warner Brothers, Disney, and all that. That's probably why. But there's still iterations out there that are public domain. So it makes you wonder if they will be next. If any public domain iteration version of Oswald, if any iteration of, Felix, or Flip the Frog, the original Flip the Frog, is going to, go into the hands of people that, want to take the public domain versions and turn them into horror icons. I mean, I mentioned Oswald, and I said, there's possible, public domain stuff on him. I almost forgot that there is something that's in the works. There is a game, I think it's a game. No, it's not a game, it's a movie or something. It's called Down the Rabbit Hole or something, and that's like supposed to be a horror-themed project, whether it's a game or a movie or whatever. And that's loosely based on the public domain works that feature Oswald, which I'm sure Disney is trying their best to kind of scoop up and keep under their umbrella, keep protection over them. But again, it's all about answering that crazy question of what if? What if this character was this way? What if this character was that way? What if this character acted like this? What if this character, did that? What if this character was a bloodthirsty maniac and not a beloved sweetheart? That's all this, really is. That's all this really is at the end of the day. It's more about answering that question of what if? What if this character was it? What if the characters were psycho killers? That's what it is. End of the day. That's what it is. What if they were psychos? Period. And that's why you're getting a lot of these things. I know I've talked about this many times, plenty of times before, but that's why, I'm talking about it again, because it's so weird to even fathom, It's so, like I said, it's so hard to even fathom that this is all happening, but it is. Now, the question I think I have is, will there ever be a stop to it? I think down the line there will be. And I don't think it's going to be because of who's going in to office right now. No. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have the likes of Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, and whoever else step up and say, enough's enough of this crap. Let's buy our characters back. Let's put them back under our roof, under our protection, and hope that this dies down. And I think that's what's going to happen. Eventually, they're going to have enough of this. Because you can't tell me that every time a horror project, whether it's Infestation, which is the game based on Steamboat Willie, whether it is the Steamboat Willie themed horror film coming out and everything, whether it's Shimmy Me Timbers, whether it is Popeye the Slayer, whether it is, Pinocchio and all them, the thing is, sooner or later, this is not going to last very long. I think what's going to happen is after we get this Pooh-verse Avengers-like film next year, which is supposedly next year, I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a lot of places bring the hammer down and say, enough, no more of this nonsense. You got it out of your system, leave it alone, let's move on. And that might happen next year, that might happen in the next several years, we don't know, but it's going to happen. You're going to see reports on places like YouTube and social media platforms talking about the fact that this has all come to an end and that everybody that was working on projects had to can and show them indefinitely because, hey, they got the hammer brought down on them, due to legal means and all that. Because somebody eventually is going to get too close to what the characters look like currently, under, the umbrellas of WB, King Features, Universal, Disney, you name it. Somebody's going to get very close, and then that right there, that's going to be the moment where basically they say, enough's enough. End of story. But what do you guys think about this? I mean, what are your thoughts on the fact that not only are we getting more Mickey Mouse horror-themed projects, movies, and all that, but even sequels that now have Minnie in there? What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on, this Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey movie, I guess you could say film series, not only getting a third film, but now also basically now on the verge of, taking things to that next level, with the Pooh-verse and everything next year. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the Popeye movies? What are your thoughts on those? And what other, IPs, outside of, let's say, the Oswald movie, which is loosely, based on Oswald, the Oswald horror movie, which is loosely based on him. What are your thoughts on possible other IPs like Felix and Flip the Frog, the original Flip the Frog, and maybe even the original Bosco and Honey, and Buddy and his girlfriend, for goodness sake, probably getting this treatment in the near future? And do you think eventually it is all going to come to an end? Because I think it is. I think sooner or later, and agree with me on this, agree with me if you will on this. I don't, it's your opinion. If you feel like it's not going to happen, that's fine. But agree with me on this, that one day, if they're not careful, somebody's going to try to do something horror-themed wise, which has character designs too close to what the current IPs or close to one of the IPs of the characters look like under the current regime of like Disney or Warner Brothers and all them. Let me know what your thoughts are. Love to hear what you had to say on this, or what you had to. Well, yeah, I'd like to hear what you have to say on this and everything. Let me know. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all later. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notification. Check out my Teespring store. Links in the description, as well as links to where you can find me elsewhere here on the internet. But guys, give me your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you have to say on this. How do you feel about all this? And until next time, talk to you all later.